Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are. Happy holidays. This is Ben Sands, and I'm happy to be here for Lead Your Best Life 2018. This is a bit of an annual ritual where in this critical week between Christmas and New Year's, we get together and take a second to reflect on the year that was and set 2018 up for success. As we're getting started here, I just want to make sure that the chat function is working. If you could, just to make to see that this is working, just type in hello or good afternoon, or let me know where you're coming from in the chat box on the right-hand side. Let's see if this is working, if I've set this up correctly. Type a chat into the right-hand side. Beautiful. All right, looks like it looks good. Let's dive right in. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And here we go. So Lead Your Best Life 2018. As I mentioned, this is a strategic approach to managing your career and creating your best year yet. As we begin this discussion, let's talk about the year that was, 2017. How did it go? How did you do this year? The assumption that I make as I put this talk together is that for you, like for me, 2017 was pretty darn good, but also left a little something to be desired, that there was an opportunity to do even more. So how did you do in 2017? A couple of the questions that I like to ask, what were the highlights? What were my key accomplishments? Of what were you most proud as you look back on the year that was? Then critically, as you think about 2018 and what success looks like going forward, I like to start with, how could I have made 2017 better? What could I have done differently or more of, less of, to improve my outcomes this year? So the critical first step in setting up a better next year is to review and reflect on what you've accomplished in the current year and how critically you could have improved those outcomes. Because everything is a building process, right? Every single year, what we're hoping for is not some kind of watershed breakthrough performance, but incrementally better performance. So as we move forward. So let's benchmark this and establish a bit of a baseline. I want you to think on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is a year that you wish had never happened, and 10, 2017 was absolutely your best year yet. How good was this past 12 months for you? So 0 to 10, how good was your 2017? We established this little bit of a baseline so that we can understand what does improvement, what does better look like? For most of you on the call today, 2017 was a 7, an 8, a 9. But chances are there's a few of you that 2017 was a 2, a 3, or a 4. Either way, it doesn't matter what the actual number is. All that matters is that 2018 is a little bit better. So if you're a 3, we want to get to a 4. If you're a 5, a 6, a 7, we want to become a 6, a 7, or an 8. We establish this simple baseline so we understand what does better look like and what's our starting point. Now, going into this call, I have a few assumptions that I just want to establish as we dive in. The first is that you want to be a 10, that you want 2018 to be your best year yet. Now, that doesn't seem to be much of a stretch. If any of these assumptions are incorrect, just let me know. But everybody wants to have, if not a 10, a better year than the year that was. The second assumption, the world needs you to be a 10. Now, this is a little bit of my ideological soapbox. My assumption is that everybody dialed in today has 3 things going for them. You're smart, you're driven. Clearly, you wouldn't be on a call in the middle of the week between Christmas and New Year's if you weren't. And you have access to resources that 99% of the world would kill to have access to. The world needs you to be a 10 because the world needs you, given these advantages that you have, to be doing more with yourself personally and professionally. The world needs you to be waking up every day energized and excited to do the work that you have to do. Third, I know that you're working really hard. Whatever your outcomes were in 2017, you didn't get it because you were lazy. You weren't working really hard. I know that you're working really hard, but I also know that you're not there yet. You're not at that 10. So as we begin this planning process, the first question we've got to establish is why, right? Why weren't you a 10? Let me come back to the screen here for a second. I'm gonna stop sharing. So why weren't you a 10? Right? What held you back from getting to that great outcome this year? For so many of us, the reasons are very real, very true, very honest. For many years, for me, it just felt like I didn't have enough time. Right? I had so many commitments to other people. It was really hard to focus in on myself and to create the kind of outcomes that I wanted to create, to prioritize the things that would really move my life, both personally and professionally, forward. What's your reason? Right? What held you back this year from being a 10? For some, it might be your physical health, your emotional health. For others, it just might have been a really tough year at work, right? Transitions, acquisitions, divestitures, who knows, right? But it's critical that you have some hypothesis as to what was holding you back from creating that 10, from making 2017 your best year yet. Because once we know what's holding us back, we have an opportunity to course correct, to make changes and move ourselves forward. I had a bit of an aha a couple of years ago, and I asked a similar question to a group of students at Georgetown, big East Coast university. And I asked this simple question. We're talking about personal performance. And I said, do you have written goals and a plan to achieve them? I asked this in a survey before the conversation. And it was a couple hundred people that responded to the survey. Now, Georgetown, really great university, bunch of smarty pants. I thought this was a layup. I really assumed that everybody in the audience had some form of written goal and some plan to make that goal or execute against that goal. I was shocked when the survey results came back and just 15% said yes. Just 15% had some clear sense of what they wanted to accomplish that year. And even more importantly, a plan for executing against that target or against those goals. That just doesn't make sense, right? I think of The Office. Imagine working for a company, walking into your boss's office on a Monday morning and saying, hey boss, what are we trying to do today? What are our goals for this week, this quarter, this year? And seeing him kind of look at you quizzically and say, shrug his shoulders, saying, I don't know. Let's wing it. We would never, ever want to work for a manager like that. We would never, ever want to work for a company that didn't have a strategy, that didn't have a plan. So what gives? Why do we hold ourselves to a lower standard? Why do we tolerate less rigor in our personal lives than we would ever tolerate at work? It just doesn't make sense. The author David Brooks wrote a great book called The Road to Character, and in it really captured, I think, the essence of what we're getting at and why it's so essential that men and women like you and me, men and women who have everything going for us, we're smart, we're driven, with access to resources, why it's so essential that we have clear goals, clear targets, and a plan to execute against them. He writes, without goals, it's easy to slip into a self-satisfied mediocrity. We grade ourselves on a forgiving curve and end up slowly turning into something a little less impressive than we had originally hoped. I don't know about you, but when I first heard that, when I first read that, it hit me right in the gut. I don't know about you, but I know what self-satisfied mediocrity looks like. I know what that feels like. I also know what it feels like to grade oneself on a forgiving curve. And candidly, this is what keeps me up at night. My great fear, right? To wake up a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now and say, shoot, I could have done better. I could have done more. If that sounds like you, then I think you're really, really going to love this strategic planning process that I've created. It's grounded in this desire to create incremental progress. to create continuous improvement, not just this year, but throughout our lives, so that not just 2018 becomes our best year yet, but then 2019 and 2020 and 2021, each of them builds on the momentum that we're going to gain this year through this approach. The foundation of this approach is the ability to answer these three critical questions. Now, these questions may seem fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but they are at their core the answer to where am I, where do I want to go, and how am I going to get there? Number one, who am I? Right? Who am I? What do I believe? What do I value? Two, what do I want? What does success look like? And three, based upon who I am and what I want, what must I do to get there? These three critical questions seem so simple, so straightforward. But the reality is, most of us can't answer these with a high degree of clarity and confidence. Can you? Imagine that a child asked you today, who are you? What do you want? What must you do to make it happen? How easily would that answer roll off the tongue? For most of us, not very easily. These three critical questions are at the heart of the process that I'm going to share with you today. And I also see them as the foundation of leadership. Because the ability to lead others successfully, effectively, the ability to lead an organization successfully, effectively, at its core, it all begins and ends with the ability to lead yourself well. If you can answer those three critical questions, who am I? What do I want? And what must I do? Effectively for yourself, you have a chance of helping others answer those questions for themselves. The old adage holds true. You cannot give what you do not have. So in order to create lasting leadership, effective leadership of others, we must first become absolutely expert at leading ourselves well. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you this framework for creating and generating these answers and then integrating them into a thoughtful, compelling, and effective plan going forward. Let's dive right in. So here's a question for you. Imagine it's December 27th, 2018. Imagine you could wave your magic wand and have any outcome, personally or professionally, that you could desire come true in 2018. What would it be? Take a second right now. What would you want if you could have anything happen in 2018? What would it be? Would it be a new job, a promotion? Do you want to pay off your credit card debt or student loan debt? Maybe it's a new relationship. Perhaps it's a new baby on the way. Perhaps it's to see your oldest baby successfully graduate from college. If you could wave a magic wand and have and achieve anything, have anything in the next 12 months, what would it be? I love asking this question because it gets us into the mindset that we need to be in order to really create a clear and compelling vision of our future and ultimately create an effective plan for making these things happen. Now, I asked this question of a colleague a couple of years ago, and we were sitting down. He was struggling with understanding what he should do professionally. And so we sat down. I asked him this question at a little coffee shop in Washington, D.C., and his answer was clear and quick. I will be the president's energy advisor. Wow. I thought, geez, that's awesome. And candidly, that's exactly what he wanted me to think. At the time, he was in a position where he could get this job. It was a couple years ago, and he was working on the Hill already. Master's degrees in environmental science and economics. A really, really sharp guy. So his wave your wand goal was to become the president's energy advisor, and I thought that's cool. But the thing is, my job as his coach in that instance was not to say, wow, cool, but instead to ask a more critical question. Why? role. And his answer to that question, why, ultimately revealed the mistake that we all make when it comes to setting goals. One of the reasons I think most people don't set goals, don't create plans, is that they've likely tried it the old way and it hasn't worked. They've set some kind of big, hairy, audacious goal and they've gotten it and thought either, that's not a big deal, and immediately set a new one, or they missed it and said, there's a whole bunch of reasons why that wasn't a great goal to begin with. But this question really reveals specifically why, the mistake that we all make when it comes to setting goals. So let me walk you through the conversation that I had with him. So he wants to be the president's energy advisor. My question, why? At first, probably like you're rolling your eyes saying, well, why not, right? Who wouldn't want to be the president's energy advisor? But he played along, and this is how the conversation went. His first answer was, energy expertise will always be in demand. Why? Why does that matter? I'll never have to worry about finding a job. He said he wants to be the president's energy advisor, but within the space of two simple questions, we get down to something more foundational. I never have to worry about finding a job. What's he really want? Job security. This got his attention. We kept going. Why else do you want to be the president's energy advisor? I have the ability. Okay. Why does that matter? I can and want to have major impact. Major impact. Why is that important? And here, there was a long pause, and I could see him start to get very reflective. Finally, he looks up at me in a voice barely above a whisper and says, society respects people who do big things. He says he wants to be the president's energy advisor, but what's he really after? Respect. I call it significance. We kept going. Why else do you want to be the president's energy advisor? The earth needs help. This is what I thought he was going to start, right? Save the planet. Like, why does the earth needing help matter to you? Because the earth is an underdog. Now, really interesting turn of phrase here, right? That got my attention. I said, why does underdog matter to you? And again, long pause. And again, a voice just above a whisper. I know what it's like to be an underdog. Now, I won't get into the story here, but long story short, right? He had spent a great portion of his young adult years feeling like the odd man out, not feeling a real sense of belonging. So this desire to be the president's energy advisor, in so many ways, mapped back to a foundational desire for connection. In this case, to the planet. But the desire, the need for connection is universal. And then finally, one last little exploration. Why else do you want to be president's energy advisor? Because the energy space is exciting. Why does that matter to you? Because I'm bored in my current role. I imagine that a few of you on this call are feeling the same way. What's he really after? The opposite of boredom? I call it growth. The mistake that we all make when we set goals, I want to just come back to the main screen again. The mistake that we all make when it comes to setting goals is that we confuse things and feelings. At the end of the day, we're not after the thing, the job title, the salary level, the relationship status. We're after the feeling that we associate with having that thing. And as it turns out, those feelings are universal and consistent for each and every one of us. Let me show you what I mean. We all share the same goals, the same four feelings. I sometimes refer to them as buckets. We're all trying to meet these foundational goals. Number one, goal for security, certainty, stability, the ability to avoid pain. Two, connection to yourself and to others. Three, a desire or need of significance, to feel like we matter, that we're important, that we're valued. And last but not least, to grow, to learn, evolve, make progress. We all have these same goals. Every human being on the planet. Any psychology majors who are tuned in today will recognize this as an abbreviated or simplified version of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need. Every human being shares these same goals, desires the same collection of feelings. When we feel these four things at a high level in a sustained way over time, we are on top of the world. That's peak performance. That's peak engagement. That's peak happiness, joy, satisfaction, contentment, fulfillment. But you'd say, well, Ben, I get it. Like I can see that I need to feel these things. But if every human being shares these goals, why doesn't everybody talk about it and everybody pursue these goals in the same way? Well, the reason is every human being may share those same core, these same four goals for security, connection, significance, and growth. But what makes us different are our values, the principles that we personally prioritize. Our personal core values are reformed or refined by experience, through our life experience, where we grew up, where we went to school, how our parents were, what our parents did. All of these experiences over time have shaped the principles that we personally prioritize. There's lots and lots of great values in the world, but every one of us is shaped or defined by the values that we put before others. Let me show you what I mean. So you can see on the top of this slide, the four buckets, right? Our core common goals: security, connection, significance, and growth. If you value financial prosperity, then you may achieve a feeling or a sense of security if you make a lot of money or have a huge personal checking account. But if you value spirituality or faith over financial prosperity, well, you would feel the same sense of security through a deep and committed spiritual or prayer life. Two dramatically different approaches to meeting the same exact need, all shaped by the values that we personally prioritize. Let me give you a couple more examples. Connection. If you value family, or what is more often referred to as interdependence, for you, you can create a great deal of connection by having and raising a child. But what if you valued the environment more so than family or interdependence? Well, then doing things to protect that environment, like my friend on Capitol Hill, would meet that need, would fill the bucket of connection. Significance. If you value achievement over other things, winning a race, the contest, the promotion, right, is going to fill that bucket, that significance bucket. But if you value concern for others more so than achievement, then helping a friend out on a rainy day is going to fill that bucket more effectively. And finally, to round it out, growth. If you value objective analysis, knowing everything that's going on in the world, right, that may be your source of growth. That may fill your growth bucket. But if you value health and activity, well, then you may meet that need for growth by jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. This is why we get into so many arguments and issues at home and at work. This is why the Republicans and Democrats don't get along. And the truth is, we're so close. We all value this, and we all want the same things. We want to feel secure. We want to feel connected. We want to feel like we matter, and we want to feel like we're moving forward. We're getting better, getting stronger. It's just that we have personal core values that shape our beliefs, our worldview, our understanding of what a better or best approach to meeting those needs might be. Understanding your personal core values and understanding that what you're really after is to feel a certain way, is the foundation of making 2018 your best year yet. Here's what it looks like in the framework complete. Your best life, your best year is when your actions, what you do personally and professionally, allow you to fill your bucket to meet those needs for security, connection, significance, and growth in a manner consistent with your personal core values. Let me repeat that because this is so essential. Your best life is one in which you're waking up every day, taking action, making decisions that allow you to meet these 4 foundational needs for security, connection, significance, and growth in a manner consistent with your personal core values. If 2017 wasn't the year that you wanted it to be, chances are there was some misalignment. Chances are your buckets, security, connection, significance, and growth, weren't as full as you would have liked them to be. Or alternatively, they were full, but they weren't full in the way that you wanted them to be. This simple framework is the foundation of our best life. And what we need to do in order to create that best life is to be able to first understand, where are we when it comes to filling our buckets? How full are the buckets today? And what can we do going forward in 2018 and beyond to fill those buckets even more in a manner consistent with our values? Stop sharing here. So let me just repeat that. So that framework, your actions allow you to meet your needs in a manner consistent with your values. That's the essence of your best life. I call it the regret-free life. And I know that a lot of you on the call today are sitting here going, shoot, this is where I now can articulate, I now can tell you what's missing. Right? Why wasn't 2017 as good as it could have been? Chances are because you don't feel the same level of security that you want to, right? Or you're not feeling as connected to yourself and to others as you would hope. Perhaps you're not feeling as significant as you would like, or maybe you're bored and you have been. So understanding that framework is the foundation for making progress in 2018. That's not just lateral, right? Making material improvement in your outcomes, feeling more the way you want to feel. All right, let me show you how to do this. Thanks for your patience with all these back and forth. I just think it's a little bit more interesting here. All right, so let's do a quick self-assessment, right? I want you to figure out, how full are the buckets today? So 1 to 10, right? 10 is the bucket is full to overflowing. 1, totally empty. 1 to 10, how full are your buckets today? Just on a little piece of paper, just make a note. Security, 1 to 10. Connection, 1 to 10. Significance, growth. How full are those buckets today? I like these 1 to 10 assessments as an aside, because again, it just gives us, it's subjective. It's not highly rigorous, statistically valid data, but it's something. And something is better than nothing when it comes to making progress, to moving forward. You have to have some kind of baseline, some kind of benchmark to measure yourself against. Once you've filled those out, now I want you to add them up. Add up those 4 numbers. You're going to get a number somewhere between 4 and 40. Now, I've done this assessment, self-assessment process in a lot of different companies and with a lot of different teams. And I like to give it just a simple way of thinking about where we are here. So 32 or above, right? If you add up those 4, if the buckets add up to 32 or above, you're feeling pretty darn good right now. Now, if you got onto this call and said, gosh, I was hoping to make 2018 even better, you still can. There's still room for improvement, right? But chances are you're feeling pretty good, pretty strong right now. If you're at the other end of the spectrum, anywhere from 4 to 20, chances are you're feeling a great deal of pain. And I don't mean to minimize this with the kind of funny picture here, but this is actually not the worst place to be. Because at this level, if those buckets are this low, one, you now know what you need to do, right? And we can help you make progress here. And two, critically, there is enough pain in your life right now that I am confident that you will act, that you will make progress. The people that I'm worried about, these folks, 21 to 31. I call it the danger zone. Now, if we were sitting in a room together, I'd say, why danger zone? And you would answer because you know exactly where I'm going here. It's the danger zone because this is the zone where the pain isn't all that great. No, you're not, jumping out of bed every morning, but you're not totally bummed out either. This is what I call the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, but not too cold. I know that the large majority of the people who are dialed in today are in this danger zone. Most men and women, given the advantages, born with the advantages that we have been given or born with, will spend our entire lives in this danger zone. This, my friends, is the zone of self-satisfied mediocrity. Now, I don't mean to be throwing cold water on your holiday celebrations, but it's the truth. And unless we make a concerted effort to get out of this danger zone, unless we say today, we're not going to tolerate that anymore, then we're going to stay here for the rest of our lives. And even worse, or at least from my perspective, even worse, is we're going to set that example for our kids. And they will do the exact same thing that we do. So we're in the danger zone, right? We know it, right? The great majority of the folks listening here are in the danger zone. And trust me, I'm not trying to be high and mighty. I've been in the danger zone. I'm out now because of this process, but we've been there. I've been there, right? If we don't do something differently in 2018, we're going to stay there next year, and chances are we're going to stay there for the rest of our lives. So let me show you how to escape this danger zone. It's a couple of steps. Essentially, what we have to do are answer a handful of questions, 5 specific questions, 5 steps to get out of this danger zone. The first, we've got to discover our personal core values. I mentioned that we all have these principles that we personally prioritize. Unfortunately, most of us don't actually know what they are. You'd say, oh yeah, honesty, integrity, truth, love, peace, kindness. All of those are great values. But I mean the no kidding, your behavior is evidence that these are your prioritized values. You have them. You just don't know what they are. You need to discover those personal core values, because remember, if we don't know what those personal core values are, how will it be possible to take action that is consistent with those values? The great thing about personal core value discovery is that it takes a world full of almost unlimited options and allows us to confidently close some doors, to reduce the number of options so that every option that we're looking at is a good option. Without knowledge of your personal core values, you're screwed. You can't confidently make choices because every choice is going to look more or less compelling. Second, we got to clarify our personal vision. Now, why vision? This is really important. If you said after this call, I'm going to fill my buckets every single day, you do okay. But here's the risk, is that you could spend every single day filling your bucket of security, connection, significance, and growth. But over time, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're not actually where you want to be. It's Thomas Merton who once wrote, too many men and women spend their entire lives climbing the ladder of success only to discover that that ladder was propped up against the wrong wall. We want to clarify our personal vision, essentially clarify the wall that we're looking to climb, where that wall is, how high it is. Ultimately, it's what our true definition of success looks like. Tony Robbins likes to say, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. That's what we're talking about here. You can fill your buckets. You can be quote unquote successful. But if those filling the buckets takes you somewhere where you don't necessarily want to go, that's the ultimate failure. So personal vision, we need to clarify that. 3, we need to identify metrics. Hold ourselves accountable. Let's get clear on what success looks like. I often advocate starting with the buckets as a first primary set of metrics and then building on that. As I'll show you in just a second, on my personal strategic plan, on my roadmap, I have very specific metrics that map back to those higher level needs. 4, we got to define top priorities. Even if we do all this stuff right, we're still going to have more to do than time to do it. That's sort of our curse. So becoming exceptional at prioritization, becoming masterful at being to identify or differentiate the signal from the noise, to put first things first, is going to be critical to making progress this year and every year going forward. And last but not least, we need to create high performance habits. High performance habits really map back to managing your energy. Here's the thing. You can have the perfect strategy and perfect plan, but if you wake up on Monday morning hungover from a night of tequila, it doesn't matter how good that strategy or how sound that plan is. You're not going to have the energy to execute. So the 5th step of escaping the danger zone is to manage our energy, to identify what we need to do every single day in order to have the energy we need to do the work that we have to do. I can assure you that escaping the danger zone is worth it. But I can also tell you, it's not going to be easy. We're going to need that energy, not just to do the work, but to overcome the inertia that wants us to just sit on the couch night after night and watch Netflix. 5 steps to escape the danger zone. Here's what it looks like when you pull them all together. I call it the Ready Leader Roadmap. And this is the actual planning tool that I use. After the call, I'll send you out a note and you'll be able to download a empty form here that you can fill out for yourself. But on the left-hand side, it starts with core values. These are actually my personal core values: freedom, faith, responsibility, health, and efficiency. I can tell you detailed stories about what these values actually look like in my life, where and how I've made decisions where I've prioritized these values over many, many others. I want you to be able to tell me those same stories about your personal core values. Interestingly enough, if you're watching this from work and you're thinking, gosh, we spend a lot of time, we do DISC assessments and Myers-Briggs and StrengthsFinders and the like. All of those programs are a simplified version of personal core values discovery. Typically, they focus on working together as a team or communication styles, but really core values are at the heart of every decision we make and at the underpin all of our behaviors. I would say, without question, it's more important that you know and understand your personal core values than you know and understand your Myers-Briggs score, your DISC profile. Those are all simplifications of this foundational idea. Second step, understanding what our vision is, having a vision. Right? For me, I'm a wholehearted husband and father. I run a world-class company that empowers thousands to live healthy, intentional lives. Last year, I updated that vision to focus on empowering thousands. Because before, I was focused on empowering individuals. Right? I was really working as a one-on-one coach. But I realized while I love that, I really want to expand my impact. I want to help teach and impact and create more positive outcomes in the world. When I changed that vision, that then influenced my strategy. My key metrics. For me, a lot of my ability to do what I do is based upon being able to keep the lights on. How many of the most smart, driven, talented men and women in the world lack a clear understanding of their personal financial? For me, I track this stuff intently. How much am I spending? How much am I saving? How much am I giving away? And then newsletter subs is a business metric that relates to what I do. Actions. What must I do? I update this roadmap every single month, and I look forward over the next month and I say, okay, all things being equal, what are the big wins on my calendar this month? What are the things that I absolutely must get right? I have 5 times the number of to-dos on my calendar than what you see on this list. But I want to pull out, extract all of the critical must-dos, must-wins, see it, and I can plan accordingly. But I don't stop there. I don't stop with a glorified to-do list, because if I execute on all those things, that's great. But chances are I'm going to stay where I am. I need to be intentionally looking for something that's going to help me to grow. I call it the catalyst action. And for me personally, I realized I really need to capture some of these ideas and put them in a book. That's the thing that's going to help drive really different business outcomes for me. Ultimately create more speaking opportunities, ultimately create more workshop opportunities, and so on and so forth. I won't bore you with the details, but that's what I call the catalyst action. It's a thing that unless I put it out there into hundreds of people today, I might not follow through on it. Unless I put it on my plan and I intentionally make time for it, it might not happen. But here's the good news. When it does, if I'm successful in this commitment, incredible things can happen going forward. So the catalyst action, it's one thing that I'm going to do that kind of scares me. What will it be for you? What's your commitment? And then finally, high performance habits. What must I do to sustain my performance? For me, it's a daily planning process, 5 minutes every day to put my plan together. I'll show you that in just a second. 2, I got to exercise. I got to sweat for 30 minutes or more. And then 3, 60 minutes of what I call deep work. If you're wondering what deep work is, I wrote a great article on it on the website. Just search deep work. But in a nutshell, it's 60 minutes of uninterrupted time focused on my top priority. In this case, it's actually writing that book. When I do these 3 things, I have a good day. It's almost guaranteed. When I don't, my outcomes suffer. What are your high performance habits? What must you do to maintain your energy, your performance over time? Aristotle wrote, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. I really believe that. It's not about having the perfect plan. It's about making this planning process perfect, right? It's about regularly coming back and saying, who am I? What do I want? And what must I do? I mentioned I have a daily planning approach. This is how I translate this monthly strategic plan into a daily plan. And you'll see on the left-hand side, my core values. Up the top, a morning reflection. What am I grateful for? I love to capture my highlights. Right? What did I do yesterday that I'm most proud of? I look for those highlights because 1, that triggers a positive creative response in my brain. If I kept thinking, oh, geez, I did so much, but I didn't get those 1, 2, or 3 things done, the fear starts to set in. I start to feel behind. I start to feel scared. And when that happens, my ability to do creative things, my ability to do great things diminishes immeasurably. But I don't give myself, it's not about self-satisfied mediocrity, right? Not forgiving curve. The way we avoid the forgiving curve, grading ourselves on a forgiving curve, I ask this question, how could I have made yesterday better? And I'm tough on myself. What could I have done more of, less of, differently to improve the outcomes that I had? That triggers the final reflection. What are the most important things I must do today? So this excellence or this daily planning process is really important to me. It's one of my high performance habits, and I would encourage you to adopt a similar approach. If you want to download this exact template, you can just go to samsleadership.com/daily. If you like this, one of the things that I'm doing, a thing that I worked on over December, my catalyst move, was to create a program. I call it Ready Leader. That is a step-by-step facilitated video course where you build this personal strategic plan together, where we build it together. There's a whole series of exercises and questions that will allow you to craft your personal vision, a compelling personal vision that will allow you to identify and select some specific metrics that make the most sense to you. that will allow you to more effectively identify the signal from the noise in your day-to-day activities and establish those top priorities. So it's a facilitated video course. It's going to be really cool. We're going to, on a monthly basis, we're going to get together and do live strategy review sessions via, a webinar technology, Facebook Live, and then one-on-one coaching for those who are interested to help ensure greater accountability, efficiency, and progress. This will roll this out in January. But if you're interested in getting early access to it, email me at ben@sandsleadership.com, and I'll be able to provide you early access probably next week before the actual official launch. So again, if you're interested in this, ben@sandsleadership.com, put Ready Leader in the subject line, and I'll know what it's about. I want to end with a little story about Steve Martin. I read Steve Martin's autobiography this year called Born Standing Up, and it chronicles his time as a stand-up comedian. And Steve Martin is really an inspiration to me, not just because of his talent, but more so because of what it took to develop and refine that talent. Most people think Steve Martin was just funny from the beginning, and chances are he was. But when you think a guy like this is just a natural talent, not like you really miss a critical lesson from his life. And in the book, he talks about getting up night after night, especially in the early days of his career, and getting booed off stage, having people just look at him like, "Are you nuts?" And yet he kept at it. And when he was asked many years later, after he became an international sensation, why he kept going and how he generated the will to get back up on stage night after night, he said this: "Even the most unsavory task becomes meaningful if you know that it's moving you closer to your goals." Even the most unsavory task becomes meaningful if you know that it's moving you closer to your goals. This is the essence of what we're trying to do when we aspire to live and lead our best life. We have to know what our goals are, because the reality is there's hard stuff that's going to be asked of us. That's leadership, right? Somebody's got to go first. Someone's got to do the hard work, the brave work, the things that other people are not willing or able to do. If you're not confident or convinced that that hard, brave work is moving you closer to your goals, well, you might pass on that unsavory task. And the world will lose, not to mention you and your family. That's what leadership is all about. And so as we wrap up today's call, what I really want to suggest as you're thinking about creating your best year, leading your best year, is that it's only through a process of intentional and thoughtful strategic planning that you have the ability to look at a world full of almost unlimited opportunity, but also a heck of a lot of uncertainty, and move forward with confidence. I can't guarantee you how long it's going to take for you to fill your buckets at the highest levels in a consistent way, sustained over time. I don't know. But I do know that if you make a decision today, right now, to start living intentionally, to start taking actions that allow you to meet your needs in a way that's consistent with your values, that you will make material progress, that the world will start to make sense again. Your energy, your confidence, your clarity, it will all come. And ironically, it's this process that can scare some people, right? Actually doing the work to figure out who am I? What do I really value? That can be the most liberating effort or a step that you can ever take. The reality is everybody has to make trade-offs. Life is trade-offs. Right? There's no silver bullet where everything happens perfectly immediately. What this process, what I call Ready Leader or personal strategic planning, what this process allows for is for an ability to make trade-offs intentionally. To intentionally say, I'm going to choose X over Y because X is better than Y at this point in time. The opposite of intentionally making those trade-offs is having those trade-offs made for you. When we make them ourselves, that's called sacrifice. We sacrifice for our kids. We sacrifice for our company. We sacrifice for our world all the time, right? We feel good about sacrifice. But when those trade-offs are made for us without any control or any say on our part, we call that suffering. And nobody wants to suffer. The difference between sacrifice and suffering is being able to answer those 5 questions. What are my values? What are the metrics that matter most? What are my top priorities? And ultimately, how do I sustain the energy that I need to maintain my high performance over time? I am so thankful for you being here today and hopeful that 2018 will be your best year yet. Please, after this webinar, email me, ben@sandsleadership.com, and share with me one important takeaway. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this webinar, a specific action that you're going to take. And I'll follow back up with you. I can be an accountability partner. I can be a coach. I can be a cheerleader. I can be a resource. Let me know how I can help. But more than anything, take one specific action coming out of this talk and help ensure that 2018 is your best year yet. Good luck. I am rooting for you. Have a great rest of the week. Bye.